Good afternoon. Thank you for being here. And if you're not here live, thank you for catching the replay. Today we're doing a review of the verb I in Spanish. In English, it's there is or there are. We've had a few lessons on this in the last few weeks. So today we're wrapping up this series and we're going to do a little bit of a review. So when you're doing the sentences in the positive, you're going to have there is, if you have a singular subject, and you can add a description. You might have there is, or there are, with a plural subject and a description. So you could say there is a dog, or there are some dogs outside. So if you need some more examples, look back in my channel, and we've had several lessons on this. So this is just a quick review. Okay, we practiced doing the sentences in the negative. So if we're going to do it in the negative, it is there is not for the singular, and there are not for the plural. You can also use contractions with those. So you could say there isn't or there aren't. And actually you can do this one more way. You could change the contraction and you could have there's not or there aren't. There aren't stays the same. So that would be there are not or there aren't. But there's three ways you can do this. There is not, there isn't, and there's not. And they're all equally correct. It just kind of depends on what you're wanting to emphasize. ¿Están todos iguales de correctos? Depende de qué es lo que quieres enfatizar en la oración. Okay, we also did some questions. So on the questions, we flip it around. So for the singular, it will be is there. Don't forget your question mark. For the plural, it's are there. Again, don't forget your question mark. There's no question mark at the beginning, like in Spanish. Just one at the end. Okay. And if you're going to do a negative question, on the negative questions, you are going to use the contraction. So it's isn't there or aren't there. It would sound really funny if you said is not there or are not there. That just doesn't sound right in modern times. So in these, you would use the correction. Isn't there a new movie in the theaters this week? You would use the contraction. Okay, so, and on the questions, we also talked about how using the positive question, is there, or the negative, isn't there, is pretty much the same. It just kind of depends on what you're wanting to emphasize. So, I did have this lesson planned for before Thanksgiving. But since I wasn't feeling well, we didn't quite get it done. So here's a beautiful turkey for Thanksgiving. So let's ask a question about that. So we could say we've got one turkey, so it's singular. So we could say, is there a turkey on the table? How would I change that to a negative? I would say, isn't there a turkey on the table. Don't forget your question mark. Okay, so how could I answer that? I would say there is a turkey on the table. There is a turkey on the table. Okay, let's look at our next picture. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There are 7 pumpkins. In the picture. Those are easy. I can count those. There's not that many. How about the flowers? Would I count the flowers? Probably not. So how could I use that to say there's flowers without using a number? I could say there are some flowers. I can use the word some. Flowers in the picture. So some is like using unos or unas in Spanish. There's more than one, but we're not counting them. Okay, good. Okay, let's look at this picture. Okay, what could we say about this? There is a cart. There is a cart. There are some flowers. Ooh, look at this. Flowers in a basket. Okay, notice I used there are because my subject is the flowers. Let me change this around. I could say there is a basket of flowers. So see how I had to change which verb I used according to my subject? So there are some flowers in a basket, or there is a basket of flowers. Okay. And these are different. This one I think is actually a pumpkin. I think these two are pumpkins, and this one I would call a squash. But I don't want to talk about each one. So how about I say there are some vegetables on the cart. So this would be a way if I weren't sure of the names. Like, I'm pretty sure this one is a pumpkin. But this one, is either a pumpkin or a squash, and this one, I'm not sure if it's a squash or a gourd. I know there's several names and there's different kinds, but that's not something I'm really familiar with. That's not a vocabulary that I truly know the difference. I know a little bit, but I don't know much. So if I use the word vegetables, I know that's correct. So that's a way that I can get away from squash, gourd, pumpkin. I'm not sure what the difference is. So I can just say vegetables. Ooh, even better, I could say there are some fall vegetables on the cart. Okay, this next picture is going to be pretty similar. So I thought this one was very cute, and it's a little hard to see, but this one I know, this is what we always called a gourd. And there's a pumpkin. There's a pine cone. So there's several different fall items in the basket. So this one, there is a puppy carrying a basket. Now this is a little more advanced than what we talked about, but in our description, if we want to use a verb like carry, we're going to use the gerund form, the ing form. So there is a puppy carrying a basket. Okay. There is a kitten in front of the basket. Oops. So this is where we can use some of our prepositional phrases in front of. Here's another one. There is a dog. Or how about there is another dog next to the basket. And let's see, there's a marigold. In Spanish sería el cempasúchil. A gourd, a pumpkin. So I'm going to put, there are fall things in the basket. Okay. So this has been a pretty good review of there is and there are. Let's do a couple of questions about this picture. Let's make some questions. So this one looks like it's more fruit than vegetables. Well, I don't know. There's corn. So there is some corn. And there are flowers. Okay. So here's a question. Is there fruit on the table? Now, I'm guessing this is on a table. I can't really see the table. How about, are there table. And this, I'm not sure how you say it in Spanish, el cuerno. In English, se llama cornucopia. So let me write a question about that. Is there a cornucopia? Sorry about that. On the table. Remember, if you're asking a question, you need to have the question mark. There's not one at the beginning like there is in Spanish, but there needs to be one at the end. Cornucopia. And I could say, isn't there, food on the table? So there's a lot of ways to use, in Spanish we have one word, I. And in English, it can be there is, there are, is there, isn't there, are there, aren't there. So there's a lot of options for one word. One word in Spanish and several different options in English. So like I said, this was a review of the Spanish verb I in English, which is quite different because we have to decide whether it's singular or plural, if it's a question, if it's not a question. So there's a little bit more to look into it in English. We've just done a series on this, so this is, I think, the 4th or 5th lesson. So make sure to look back on the channel and you can check out the other ones. I will be having some free classes that I'll be putting up here on YouTube, so make sure and check those out. I have the schedule up on mybilinguallife.org. You can join the group there and you'll get notified whenever there's an event. And I will be taking some time off for the holidays, but I'll be back very soon. So I hope you enjoy this lesson. I hope it's been helpful. We will be doing a lesson where you'll fill in the blank with is or are. And then we'll move on to a new topic. So thanks for stopping in. And I hope to see you soon. Nos vemos.